Welcome everybody to Monday Night Live. Today I have got Alex Kent with me. Alex is a long-term friend of the Monday Night Chat Show, but let me tell you just a little bit about Alex. He went to Oxford University and obtained a doctorate, and then joined BP Chemicals as a graduate recruitment. Maybe he cheated and came in a bit higher up. We'll find that out in a minute. And had a great career with BP Chemicals before taking advantage of leaving and setting up his own business in coaching, advising, leadership and management. Welcome, Alex. Thanks for coming on and sharing your wisdom with us tonight. Alex, tell us what you learned at BP Chemicals.
What did I learn? Well, when I first started, it was my first job, okay? And I came out of university and my degree was in chemistry. So I was employed in research. So I learned a fair bit about what it takes to put together industrial chemical processes. Because BP Chemicals at that stage was something like $5 billion company and making hundreds of thousands of tons of chemicals. Probably not so green nowadays, but that's what it was then. So I learned a lot about doing fundamental research, but with an industrial context.
And you went through the management chain and ended up managing some strategic business units. Was somewhere like Grangemouth one of yours? Because that is a real non-green place.
Well, the chemicals business is a number of sites, and then the businesses have different manufacturing facilities. So one site isn't necessarily one business. Well, it wasn't in those days. Now, but I sort of moved out of research because I was sort of getting more interested in people and business than in chemicals. So I initially moved into a strategic planning role. So having dealt with things at a very small level, when we were sort of working with at the research level, you'd work with small quantities of material. And in strategic planning at the group level, we were working with businesses and, hundreds of millions of dollars of turnover and profit and what have you. So quite a scale change.
Yeah, sure. And you did tell me when we were rehearsing this, you invented something at one stage as a chemist.
I did, actually. It was a fragrance chemical, and we built a plant up at Grangemouth, which ran for a few years. I don't think it's still operational today, but we had a patent, or I had a patent for that, and sort of worked from a very small scale up to the big plant level. That was quite interesting.
And is a fragrance chemical totally manufactured from oil or whatever, or does it have?
It can be. It can be.
Does it have flowers and things that the French perfumers would put in it?
I think there are two routes. I think there are ones which are totally synthetic, and then there were the ones which this one was, or at least the chemical we made was a precursor of a totally synthetic product. And there are ones which you can obviously extract from raw materials, natural materials.
Okay, yeah. So tell us, so you're a bit like me and some people on here, had a second career, done some other things rather than being in Big Brother and big corporate life of the 80s and 90s. At what point did you decide to change your career, and what is My Sherpa?
Well, first of all, I had a lot of fun in BP running businesses, and I guess, sort of ran businesses between, 25 and 400 million pound turnover. So I saw a lot of that, but it got to the point, it would have been the mid 2000s, where BP decided we don't really want to be in chemicals any longer. So it was probably one of the first oil companies to sort of say we're going to exit our chemicals business. And they've virtually completed that in the last in the last year or so. But the first tranche was about 15 years ago. So I decided, well, actually, I enjoy working with people. I enjoy working with businesses. So why not take what I've learned with big business and help, the small and medium-sized business clients. So My Sherpa, what we do is bring together like-minded people CEOs, MDs, typically, I don't know, 1 to 50 million pound turnover type businesses. Because these people, I don't know, Derek, you can probably identify with this, they're often quite lonely at the top. They don't have anybody who they can talk their problems through with. So we come together as a group, we share problems and issues, and actually they all help each other come up with some new insights and new ideas for problems that they've got.
So it's similar to the mastermind group, really,
could be.
Perhaps a little bit more formal than that.
The other thing we do is we bring in expert speakers like yourself, Derek. You know, people at the top of their game who can teach these guys, you know, that I work with something new. Because often, you know, they're learning, you know, who actually teaches you business these days, or teaches you the techniques and tools that you need in business. It's often quite difficult to find that. So we bring in, you know, people like yourself to run masterclasses, and that helps as well.
I mean, that's one of the things that I often talk about to my friends and to my Barclays friends, actually. Some of my Barclays friends, we all worked at Ashdown Park and learnt a lot of our training at Ashdown Park. And guess what? Where Alex and I are going next Wednesday for tea, cucumber sandwiches and a cup of tea at the Ashdown Park Hotel, which was one of your customers, I think, Alex.
It was at one stage, yes. Yeah.
So I'm going to have my camera and take a few photographs where I learned everything I know, but don't let Martin.
I think it's changed a lot, Derek, since then. At least,
okay.
Not on, at least on the inside, probably. Yes.
I wonder if the ghost will still be there. That will be an interesting thing to look at. Anyway, we'll take some pictures. So, Alex, let's turn to this little bit of work you're going to demonstrate to us. It's certainly an exercise I know that you use a lot with your clients on your leadership and your management program to get what I would call people thinking outside the box. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to be your co-pilot now in the background. So tell me what you want me to do next.
Yeah, well, we're going to do a bit of a demo in a minute, but just by way of introduction, I mean, one thing I like to do is to give people something. So I'm not a professional speaker, but my aim today is to give you something which you can actually use. And what is it I'm going to try and give you? It's a new perspective on problems, or at least it's a technique for uncovering new perspectives on problems. And that's what we're going to have a look at in a minute. I'm going to demo it in a second with Derek, so you can see how it works. And then you're all going to have a little chance yourself to have a go at it. It is a practice, so you know this isn't going to be. We're not going to solve big problems on this, but we're just going to give it a go and see how you get on. I do have an offer for you at the end, which is if you struggle with any of this and you want to learn more about it, just ask me, just contact me, and I will give you some. Get it all today, just contact me and I'll take you through it again, you know, so that you can get the value for it. If it works, just let me know. It's always useful to have some feedback.
Alex, your screen froze for just about 2 seconds there, and I got into a slight panic.
Okay.
But I think it's when you said that you would discuss it with people.
Yes, it's difficult to do this in an hour, Derek. So if anybody wants to follow it up for free, just contact me, and I'm sure Derek will put down the contact details on the follow-up email.
Okay, brilliant.
Okay, so I think, Derek, if you could throw up the slide, this is the only slide I'm going to show you today. And what I'd like you to consider or to think about is this equation. A problem is equal to a fact plus an interpretation. Problem equals fact plus an interpretation. Just consider that for a second or two. So in principle, you can have a number of different interpretations which would cause you to have different views on problems. By fact, I mean something which is evidently true, something which can be proved, which I'll try and show you. Now, your task today is to just think of a problem, and you're going to go into little groups in a minute or two, sorry, not in a minute or two, but in a few minutes, to try and establish what is the fact, what are the facts, and what interpretation is being put on that. Because if you understand those interpretations, then you might have a different perspective on the problem. So Derek, can you drop the slide just for a second again, please? In fact, Derek, what does it say behind you on your poster?
It says, the only obstacle to getting what you want is you.
So this is a little bit of that, actually. Sometimes the obstacle with a problem is you, and it may be the interpretation that you're putting on it. So as I say, we're going to demo this with Derek. So Derek, have you got a problem ready which you would like to share with the group or with
Well,
me?
let me think about that just for a moment, Alex.
And this can be a business problem, it can be a personal problem, but I wouldn't go for anything too heavy because we haven't got time.
Okay, well, Chris Cooper, when he came on, another Leicester City supporter, but we better not go there. Chris Cooper, when he came on the programme, said his goal was to make a difference to 1 million people. And that really rang a bell with me. And I went back and looked at how many people I may have made a difference to with the chat show, with YouTube, with the podcast, with my newsletter, the people I've spoken in front of. And I added it up to over 500,000. So I thought I'd like to go for 1 million as well, but I can't really see how I could possibly get there, Alex. So I think
your problem is you can't see how to get from where you are today to 1 million.
Yeah.
So that's your problem. Now, what I'm going to do is to try and work out what are the facts here, what's the interpretation that Derek is putting on it. And that's what you're going to try and do in your group. So one person is going to put a problem, and two are going to try and help interpret what are the facts and what's the interpretation that's being put on that problem. So Derek, what's the fact here? How do you know you've helped 500,000 people?
Well, I went back over the 30 years I've been speaking, working for Barclays, running training for Barclays, and then the conferences I've spoken at ever since I left Barclays. And I added up the numbers. Then I looked at my YouTube channel and saw that how many views that had, and it has had over 350,000 views. Podcasts I can't measure, but it doesn't matter. So when I add all that up, and I've sent out 259 newsletters, and I get roughly 750 opens to each one of those Monday night ones. That adds up. I made it about 550,000. So that was near enough. That's about right. Some people won't have opened them, I know that, but the offer is there, and I've done that.
So just for clarification, to try and understand what the facts are here. Now, some of those people will be the same people, maybe opening different newsletters or attending different. So what is it you mean when you say half a million? Is it 500,000 individual views, individual connections, or is it 500,000 people? What do you mean?
No, it's 500,000 views, actually. Yeah, right.
500,000 views.
That's
okay,
correct,
so
right.
That's a bit of an interpretation you're starting to put on it already. So so we could establish the fact that you've had 500,000 contacts, and it may actually be a smaller number of people who you've been in contact.
Touch points. Yeah, I think touch points is the word.
So you want 1 million touch points.
Yeah.
Is that right?
That's the goal.
So what's the reason it's 1 million? Just because somebody said?
Fabulous number. It has 7 figures, and I clipped it out the air because I like big goals. So I'd rather have a big goal and not reach it than a small goal and reach it.
So what if it was larger than that?
Well, I think 1 million might be pretty tricky, Alex. I think you might have thought I'd gone crazy if I'd have said 2 million.
If you're talking about touch points,
yeah.
So, I'm just trying to think what sort of interpretation you're putting on it here. What's sort of hearing you say, well, that sounds like a large number, but you've gone from 500,000, you've gone to 500,000 in what period of time?
Oh, probably 25 years if I'm counting back, but a lot of those will have been recent. A big percentage will have been recent.
So how many would have been in, say, the last year?
150,000 maybe. But
Okay.
in the last 5 years, probably 250, 250,000. So it's moved up as the internet has taken off and Zoom, etc. It's moved up quickly.
Okay. So I don't want to go down this too quickly, but what we've established through this is looking at it is what Derek really means is touch points, not individual people. And there's my sense is you may be underplaying where you could get to, because if you've had 150,000 in the last year, and you had 500,000 over the last 25 years, your rate of is that the right way? Your rate of acceleration is quite large over the last year. So maybe something larger isn't necessarily limiting.
No, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah.
I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but just sort of a scale on it.
I like big goals, and yeah, if I can start enlisting people's help to get more people to sign up to the chat show, look at the YouTube channel, that would be great. I need to think about that.
Okay, so by the end of the session, team who was on this call, by the end of the session, what I want you to do is to put your best idea for Derek reaching at least 1 million touch points. And what's your time scale, Derek?
Wow. Under the pressure of coaching from you, Alex, I think I should not say it's 3 years. I should probably say it's a year, maybe.
Look, it has to be in your own words, not what I think it should be.
No, well, we'll go for 18 months then.
18 months, okay. So what does that take us? So the end of 2022, is that right?
Yeah, I like that. That's good.
Okay. So we have to help Derek get to 1 million by the end, touch points by the end of 2022. So your best ideas in chat before the end of the session, so Derek can pull them off and get him off the launch pad. So now you're gonna have a chance to practice this, and if Derek can do the behind the scenes magic and put you into groups of 3. So the way it works is one of you is going to offer up a problem, and the other 2 are going to try and untangle what is a fact, things which you can prove, which are self-evidently true, and what are the interpretations being put on it. And the idea of getting those interpretations is to see if you have some new insights on the problem.
So Alex, I'm creating 7 breakout rooms, so there'll be one group with 4 people in it.
Okay, that's fine. Yes.
I think before I press the button, it would be good if you just repeated what the task is for everybody, just to clarify it.
So we're only going to have time in this round for one person to offer a problem. As I say, it could be a business problem, it could be a personal problem, and the other 2 or 3 people in the group are helpers. They're going to ask questions to try and establish what are the facts around the problem and what are the interpretations being put on the problem by the problem owner. The aim is to see if you can come up with some new insights on those problems. Now, one of you is going to have to volunteer to put forward a problem. If you've got a group which hasn't come up with a problem, then the person whose mother's maiden name is nearest the beginning of the alphabet has to put the problem. So that's the rule. If you can't find a problem, the person with the mother's maiden name at the nearest the beginning of the alphabet, you are it, I'm afraid. You're going to have to come up with a problem. But look, don't pick anything too difficult. This is just a practice. If you get stuck, just type into chat and we will try and join your breakout room to help you along. And we're going to give you, I think it's 17:24. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you about 8 minutes, because we want you to come back afterwards and just report back. We'll ask a few people a little bit about the problem and what fresh insights they've had. Okay.
the breakout rooms will be assigned automatically, so anything could happen here. One person's actually working on a call who's on, so he's listening. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, yeah. Good luck with the task, and no fibbing about your mother's maiden name to avoid the task. I know what these people are like, Alex.
Oh, of course you do. Yeah.
We can't trust them.
And it's not a yes. That's right. Yes.
Okay, all the
Are you
rooms.
Are you opening the?
All the rooms are open now, so
okay, good.
You should be able to see that you're in a room, Alex, as well, which you.
I won't join that at this stage.
No, you're in with Gabby and Nigel in theory. So people are going into the rooms now. Yeah. Can you can't see the breakout rooms, Alex? Can you? No, only
yes,
me.
I can.
Okay, you should be able to see my screen. But that was great. Well done. Thank you.
And pause the recording.
Pause the recording. Absolutely. I would have forgotten that. Pause the. They're all coming back. There's Godfrey, Chris, John. Trying to see.
Okay, I think it looks like they've all come. Well, they must have all come back now because we closed the rooms, unless they've dropped out.
Yep. Looks like everyone's back. So welcome back, Alex. Welcome back, everybody. We've got the recording going. How did it go? Over to you, Alex.
Right. So let's just I'm going to start with room one, where we've got Grace, Mark, and Charlene. Who had a problem from that room?
Grace.
You may need to unmute yourself. Grace. Where are you, Grace? I can't see you on my screen. Hang on.
Grace is at the bottom with a camera off because her camera internet's not very good. So we'll probably have to listen to Grace.
Okay, Grace, can you hear us?
Yes, I've finally worked out how to unmute myself.
Great. And are you okay just briefly sharing the problem that you put to your little mini group?
So the problem I put to my mini group, having qualified it with, not sure if this is a problem in the spirit of the exercise, was my reluctance to embrace social media.
Your reluctance to embrace social media, yeah. So did they help you understand or break that problem up into a fact and various interpretations?
Yes, and they helped me come up with a solution.
Oh, fantastic. Tell us more.
By a computer.
I voiced it, and through their questioning,
yes,
which I quite liked,
yes,
they helped make me realise I don't need to overcome my reluctance to embrace social media.
Right.
I need to spend my time and energy finding someone who enjoys it to do it for me.
Oh, well, looks like you had a good team there helping you. Well done, Mark and Charlene. Mark and Charlene, do you want to add anything? How did the process go?
I think to begin with, it was quite interesting. We thought we were going to go down the mother's maiden name route, but luckily Grace chipped in, which was great. And interesting, just sort of teasing out what the issues were. And part of it was not being completely au fait with the tools of social media. And then we broke it down into sort of personal social media like Facebook and business social media like LinkedIn.
Yes.
And on the basis it was to try and help highlight a charity and things like that. The use of LinkedIn and so on would be quite a good way of doing it. But as Grace rightly said, it wasn't really for her. Charlene, do you want to add any more?
No, I think you sort of flagged the point. And I think Grace alluded to, I think sometimes it's just a case of prompts that can sort of shift your thinking.
That's the whole point, isn't it? Just to maybe a little shift and see if you can get a different perspective on it. So really well done. And I'm really impressed that you've managed to achieve that in that 8 minutes. That's really very good coaching. Well done. Let's move on to group two, where we've got Martin, Paul, and Tim. How did you get on? Did you have a problem?
I'm going to defer to Martin. It was his problem and it was personal nature, so he'll share what he wants to share.
Are you okay to share it, Martin? You need to unmute, I'm afraid. We're just getting lip reading at the moment.
Yeah. That was our first problem.
Yeah, that's right. That took a little while to solve.
The first problem was unmuting myself. Anyway, no, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, her only brother, lives in New Zealand, which is a long way away from here, and he's lived there for over 30 years. He did visit a few years ago here, and he's not in the best of health. He's in his late 70s. He's got a number of issues, both with his health and with his family situation. And, we try and help as best we can, but it's a long, long way away. So for the last 2 or 3 years, we've been thinking about my wife flying out there and spending perhaps a month or 6 weeks there. Because if she doesn't, we don't think he's going to come back here again. And she won't see him again. And their other sibling is in her 80s. So, she can't even leave the house, never mind fly to New Zealand. So whilst we occasionally have looked at what the travel situation might be like, we haven't kept pace with it. And of course, it's changing all the time. And given the current situation, we're still reluctant to go internationally in an aeroplane to any distance at all. So that was my problem.
How did Tim and Paul help you with the problem? What insights?
Well, they seem to understand the problem and very quickly latched on to some of the information I need to get together, which will be current at the time I get it all together in the same place, such as the pandemic restrictions, both here and there. The best way to get there, either direct or via some transit point, and to fully understand exactly what New Zealand's situation is in terms of letting people in and letting them out again. So they were the facts that I needed to focus on, and understand before I get to a true view of what the possibilities are.
And any interpretations that maybe I ask Paul and Tim, was Martin putting any interpretations on this situation which might affect how he looked at the problem?
My sense is that he interprets it as more important to do soon than he was letting on. I think there's a sense of urgency there. And so that really caused us, both Paul and I, to exert some energy quickly. And I even offered that he could land in the United States, or she could land in the United States, because we're flying everywhere. So, and anyway, I think that the interpretation was it's important, it's urgent, and it's family.
That's brilliant. So actually dealing with some of the practicalities may make this thing, realize the urgency, or to get over the urgency. So well done. That's really good again. Have we got time, Derek, to maybe pick up 1 or 2 more groups?
I think so. We're doing fine for time, Alex. Let's see how many we can get in.
Let's go to group 3, where I've got Chris, Godfrey, and John. Did you have to resort to the maiden name?
Well, John by default has lost his voice shouting for Southampton. Chris didn't have a problem, and I was only talking about a problem which actually I've just before coming on air managed to resolve. So you better go to other groups and just come back to us if there is time at the end.
Okay, so we've got a very select group next, and I've got I think it's Gabby and Nigel, isn't it? Just a group of 2. So
yes, we discussed and used the problem synopsis really is social media engagement. And the sort of facts are, how do you reach your targeted audience, and how do you know when you have reached that target audience in terms of what are those hard metrics that you're measuring against? So you've got fact rather than your personal interpretation, because it's all too easy to think, oh, we did really well, when perhaps the response rate or the hard metrics don't quite extend to verify those facts. And then the sort of interpretation, we talked about how do you know when you've kind of reached that sort of target audience. So for example, in the context of using students on a particular business challenge to solve a complex data problem using AI or machine learning, do you target the large big companies that probably have data scientists?
Mm-hmm.
Do you target the larger end of the SME sector, or do you go for the lower end of the SME market? The challenge is, all the interpretation then comes in, will they have a big enough or challenging enough problem? Will they have sufficient data? And whether or not the organization fits the model that we're looking to blend the student with, to use their academic skills to fulfill that knowledge or challenge at a data level. So this is
I'm just going to stop you there just for a second, because what I'm interested in is, did any new insights come out of this discussion of this particular problem and analysing in that particular way? Did you get anything new out of this?
I would say it was probably reiterating probably what we think as a team we need to be doing. So from that point of view, it's like having a sat nav telling us we're going on the right journey, as opposed to. Would you say that's fair, Gabby?
It's really interesting listening to you talking about it now, because you've positioned it in a slightly different way. So it was your problem. So have you received any kind of new thinking around it? I can't answer that question because it wasn't my problem.
I think it's one of those sort of problems that is constantly being worked on, both in the conscious but also the subconscious mind. So I think sometimes airing and talking these things through, almost like a verbal mind map, is quite useful.
Well, reinforcing can be a very useful thing as well. You don't have to find something brand new every time. Just to know, as you say, that you know you're on the right track, that the sat-nav is taking in the right direction, can be very useful. So thanks for that. That's a good reinforcement, shall we say. We're going to carry on, Derek. We've got another group here. Group 5 was Lynn, Phil and Tina. Phil's walking the dog, so I don't know if he took part or not, but Lynn and Tina certainly.
Yep.
Whose problem was it?
It was my problem.
Okay, and are you happy to share it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was, trying to think of a problem. I trained as a portrait artist after retiring from working in the university as a HR manager. And the problem with COVID is, of course, it's quite difficult to get commissions.
Yes.
And I'm not exhibiting, but I am exhibiting at the end of October, but it's been difficult, and commissions are difficult because you really need to have the person there rather than just a picture or what have you, because it's two-dimensional to two-dimensional. So I do have a website. I'm sort of on Facebook and sort of on LinkedIn, but I don't do a lot with it. So it was really, how do I get a few more commissions? Because obviously things are still a bit sort of fraught as to getting people in front of you. So
and was it Tina who was helping you with this then?
Yeah, Tina was helping, because obviously Phil, I think, was walking the dog.
And Tina, what did you establish? What were the facts here?
So the fact was that Lynn felt that she didn't know where to get the commissions from.
Yes.
And so my suggestion, and I possibly didn't follow all of your steps, Alex, so I'm sorry about that. My suggestion was, you worked at a university, you have thousands of people who've come through that university. We established we're the sort of same age. And now when something comes into my inbox from the university that I went to, I always click on it, because it's like, what's happening there? And so my suggestion was, people of a certain age, and probably I would have clicked on it 10 years, 15 years ago as well. One, they have the money for the portrait, and two, they're interested in anything that comes from the university. So Lynn had said, well, they might not know her because she wasn't like, a lecturer or something. Yeah. And my point was, actually, if it comes from the university that you went to, you're likely to click on it anyway.
Yes.
So although there is COVID, that I felt there was a huge market sitting there for her.
That's Tina, that's absolutely brilliant, because I think Lynn had a bit of a self-limiting belief there, and you've opened up one avenue for her, which is probably quite a rich scene, if I may say so.
Yes, I mean, as I said to Tina, the students wouldn't know me. There may still be some staff there that know me because I was there a long time. But as she said, you know, it's just the name coming up may just trigger people to have a look. And
just to ask for help, you know, you don't necessarily, you've got a network there of people who you can just ask for help.
And it is an avenue I hadn't thought.
Tim?
I think that's very powerful.
Yes, I would suggest that if you're going to do university, at least in the States, there's great pride of being alumni from Texas A&M, the University of Texas, Harvard. And so if you did a portrait with some symbol or logo of the school in the back, there would be a nice gift that somebody could give a recent graduate, or maybe an old alum, something like that. But I would consider, I love the university idea. I think that's brilliant. To add the logo it's just a large segment of proud alums.
Yeah, I think that's true. And you do usually look for something to add to. You don't just do a portrait, you do add something.
You can get a logo, you can get a portrait, but where can you get a logo with the portrait? And that's only from Lynn right now.
Okay.
I'm just, it's
Derek,
I'm really sorry I was walking the dog.
Derek.
I was just going to say, Alex, it's red hot, I think, for LinkedIn connections, having a university or a school. So I think Tina's really onto something there. And I don't know, Lynn, if you should be punching out some things with the hashtag of the school, and also, you know, trying to get as many people onto your LinkedIn connections, and then start posting something linked to the school. And pictures, even a portrait or a picture of the school or whatever. I think that's a great idea.
So Derek, I can virtually guarantee that some of these ideas coming up will be of use to other people. So it may be a different problem in a slightly different context, but you can see how just sharing some of these ideas gets the creativity and the ideas flowing. So it's really good so far. We can either do one more, or let's do
both. Let's do both, Alex. Let's go for it. Anyone leaves that needs to leave, then just leave quietly. That would be great. Give us a wave. And
so we've got Gregor, Jill, and Mary. Who had the problem there?
Yeah, I had a problem.
Are you okay with sharing it, Gregor?
Yes, of course. So I put the problem out from the industry. Let's say I'm working for the industry, and we have many times the quality complaints. Yeah. And of course, I got two very, very good proposals or observations from Jill and Mary. So the first one is if we are, or organization is aware that we have a problem, because in many times we are just saying, yeah, our customer is again having another wishes, they're changing the things and so on. And I think it's important in the heads of the organization that they really recognize to have an issue, not always saying, yeah, the customer is not right. Yeah. And the second one is if it is in the heads of our people, if these complaints can help us to improve our products and our organizations, let's say in our organization. So this is usual where people do not recognize. So we immediately jump to the facts. We want to measure the product. We want to see the characteristics and so on, but we are not in our heads sure that this is really an issue. Yeah. And of course, the root cause for the issue is that we do not have the production process under control, or having it robust enough to produce parts. Yeah. So.
Okay. Jill and Mary, do you want to add anything to that? What you brought to the problem? No. Have we?
Yeah, I can't think of anything to add that Gregor hasn't actually summarised.
Okay. And we'll go on to the last group then. We've got, I've got in front of me, Amy, Michael, and Nancy. Who had the problem?
It was me that had the the problem, which in a nutshell, Conscious of Time, was to do with a family problem. Very, very large family here. And two people fell out major ways, my brother and his daughter. Cut a long story short, they're both desperate to patch up, but cannot due to the depth of the issue, which I will not go into right now. Kind of very, very emotional.
Yeah.
Very difficult. It's been going on for 18 months. I'm the only one that's talking to the both of them. So there's a burden on me. And we're just not knowing where to go. So I get some really good suggestions from Amy and Nancy.
Fantastic. Could you share one of those? If are you okay to share one? What did they come up with?
There was 3 things. Amy came up with one of the 3 I've heard of, which was chapters from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. The 2 that I haven't come across, which I'm really interested in, was Gary Chapman's the 5 love languages. Okay, not familiar with that at all.
There's a few people nodding around the group, so that's
right,
good.
right. Well, it really sounds fascinating. Amy came up with that. Nancy came up with the drama triangle. Also, that sounds like the kind of triangle I've been in for 18 months, and it changes. Everybody moves from being victim to being different positions in this drama, which is the only way to describe it. So I'm going to be looking into all of these, and thank you both for those suggestions, Amy.
Okay. Well, look, I mean, absolutely brilliant. Well done. We've had 2 personal problems out of 7, so that's really good as well. Thanks for sharing those. Now, what you've now got in front of you, or what we've done, is just it's a little toolkit. So problem equals fact plus interpretation. Store it away in your bag of tools and bring it out when it's useful. That's all I ask. And if you need some help with going through that at any stage, just contact me and I will help you. There's no obligations at all. I'm a bit like Derek. I want to help as many people as I can. So Derek, back to you. I think we've romped through 7 different problems there.
Alex, thanks for doing that. That was fascinating, actually, in a different way of looking at things, and a great exercise that I think at least half the people on the show tonight live coach other people. So a great exercise to think about, and also a great exercise for people, maybe if they want some clarification, to speak to you just to get a handle on that sort of summary, because I threw a problem at you earlier on, didn't I, which we hadn't discussed. And I saw your eyes moving in all sorts of directions, as we know from the NLPers, that when you're searching out the answers, and you're clearly very good at that, and you've been doing it for a long time. So can I thank you for joining us tonight? We'll close the recording down, but we'll put this on YouTube, put it on the podcast, so listen to it again. And if you're watching this as the recording, please like it, or send Alex a message, or send him a thank you, whatever. So
I just add one final thing. So if anybody's watching it that's not live, please send Derek your top tip for getting to 1 million touch points by the end of next year, 2022. Send him a note or a text or a WhatsApp or whatever.
Brilliant. Thanks, Alex. Thanks, everybody. And see you next week.